Beat saved in my room.
Did you come by yourself, or did you?
My wife died
Oh.
January 16th. We moved into a retirement village January 8th, and she died on the 16th.
Oh my. That's quickly. Do you have family in California?
Just my children. The rest of my family live in Ohio.
Oh, okay. Okay. When did y'all go to California?
After the Korean War.
Oh, okay.
I was in the service for the Korean War.
Oh, okay.
And I met and married my wife there. And so when the war ended, I came to California, around Montana. Warmer.
Mm-hmm. Wow. A farmer?
It's warmer.
Oh, it's warmer. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so my enunciation isn't as good as it used to be.
Okay.
Stroke affected my speech a little too.
Yeah. When did you have your stroke?
Oh, September, October last year.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was in a nursing home, and they were bringing her back from rehab. She said, the girls, get me in bed quick and call the nurse, I can't breathe. So they got her in bed, went and got the nurse, and came back, she wasn't breathing.
Oh.
So they gave her artificial respiration. She came around. They sent her to the hospital, and she came back. I was visiting the day after she got back, and on the day she got back. And I told her, I think I'm having a stroke. And she said, why? I can't move my arm right on my leg.
Mm-hmm.
I had a stroke.
Wow.
I'd been in, also in a big bug amongst the retirement out of the nursing home.
Oh.
When Betty was first struck and they came in, somebody, Mrs. Scott, and the guy went running out, and I went after him. I couldn't run, but I was walking as fast as I could. I got in the room, and she was breathing again.
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what caused the stroke.
Yeah.
Maybe not, who knows?
Yeah.
Could have been a lot worse.
Hmm.
We moved in a retirement village on the 8th, and she died on the 16th.
16.
Told her, well, I couldn't get somebody, I can't breathe, so I stuck my head out the door and yelled, and they got the paramedics down, and they took her to the hospital. She was recovering, doing fine. They took her down for x-rays about 10 o'clock in the morning. She had a massive stroke.
Oh, wow.
And they could have kept her alive with a ventilator, but she was unconscious and would remain that way, and she didn't want to live like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we let her go. Her written instruction to the hospital would let her go, and we told them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So about 10 o'clock at night, she died.
Yeah. That's what I've told my husband to do.
Okay, bring your chair over here.
Instruction.
And you're gonna have to get up but not squeak.
Vernon, you're interrupting your interview.
What?
You're interrupting your interview.
You're not starting yet.
No,
right?
we haven't started yet.
No, I'm about to stress out here anyway.
No, don't do that to us. Please.
Would you like a soda?
No, thank you.
Okay. Do you want one?
Okay. No, thank you.
Okay, this is the record button, this red button here.
Okay.
That's what you'll push to turn it off. Your only job here is to periodically get up, look in here, make sure he's still framed.
Okay.
If he's adjusted, then you're going to have to move the camera, and you're going to have to be real careful. Wait till he's in between sentences. Don't move it during a time when he's talking.
Okay.
We don't want to, and you got to be
You won't be able to
real.
move it, I never stop.
And see, we got his eyes about 2/3 up in the screen.
Okay.
And so all you should have to do is go left or right, and shouldn't have to do really anything, but I've got it fairly tight. Okay?
Okay.
Other than that, don't do anything, and when it stops, signal to Charlie in case she doesn't notice it. I don't know how loud it'll be when it stops. Okay, but make sure you're not touching.
Okay.
You make sure your glasses are not touching, because that'll have it may not seem like you moved it much, but in the tape,
Oh,
there'll be some video we won't be able to use. You see? Okay, here we go. Ready?
My name is Charlie Henson. We're in Abilene, Texas today at the 12th Armored Museum. I'm with Mr. Robert Scott today, who was a member of the 12th Armored Division. I appreciate you letting us talk to you today. Number one, I want to know where you were born, your full name and where you were born, and the date.
I was born October 20th, 1923 in Cambridge, Ohio. And what else you want to know?
Did you? Where were your family? Where was your mother and father from?
They were both from Cambridge.
Okay. They originally were born and raised in
My
Cambridge?
mother was born in New Bloomfield, a little tiny town outside of Cambridge, about 15 miles. But my grandfather's house burned down. He moved to Cambridge when she was very young.
Tell me about, do you have brothers and sisters?
No,
Okay, you were the only child. And what did your dad and mom do? I assume your father just did for a living.
my mother did nothing. She was crippled about 6 months after I was born. She got osteomyelitis in her hip, and it became destroyed the joint. And fever took her hearing out in one ear. She couldn't bend over, do a lot of things. My father was division manager for Montana Dakota Utilities, small utility company up in Montana, North Dakota.
Okay, tell me what got you into World War II?
I volunteered.
Okay, how old were you? And first of all, tell me about Pearl Harbor, where you were and what you remember about that day.
I was home. I remember going for a walk with my friend George Drapes. We talked about whether we want to enlist there or finish high school. And I decided to finish high school, and so did George. And he was subsequently taken prisoner in the Bulge. He was 106th Infantry. He was in the artillery. His place, was overrun. They had 2.5-ton trucks, and they couldn't get the artillery piece out. They were trying to get out, and they got caught.
And where did you enlist, and where did you do your training at?
Well, I enlisted in a enlisted reserve out in school, and in summer of 43, spring of 43, I was called up with all my friends from the University of Montana, because that's where I'd been studying before I flunked out. I majored in one song, and anyway, went to Fort Lewis, Washington. They all went various places. I stayed there like I tried to fit in a uniform. I was so tall.
How tall are you?
6'6".
6'6".
You're supposed to be 6'4". You can't go overseas. You're classic to take you can't go overseas. A lot of reasons you can't go overseas. I went anyway. Talked to County Commander about it. He took extra shoes for me with the outfit. Kept a couple extra pair of glasses, and Headquarters County gave me an extra pair to put in my hip pocket in a steel case. I subsequently crushed. They were being shelled, and the shells came in. I went to stuff in front of me, so went over backward in the frozen ground and smashed them to pieces. What a glass I took overseas all the time, clear back to the States.
How did you end up at Berkeley?
Well, I was in ASTP program for college kids. Even though I flunked out, I was still showing there. And I took my basic at Camp Roberts. I took it in intelligence and reconnaissance, which was unusual in one respect. You had to have an ATC test of 115 to get in, and you had to have 110 to be an officer. Oh, it's kind of an elite. And we had a 15-week basic, a lot of map reading, learned Morse code, they taught us sketching. We're supposed to stick behind the enemy line and sketching, find out where people were and dig up latrine, get letters, all kinds of stuff like that. And anyway, when they had done with that, they put me in Santa Rosa Junior College for a refresher course, and then when the refresher course was over, they shipped us to New Mexico. AMA, agriculture and more agriculture.
Okay, let's scoot back to the ASTP. Now, how did you get into the ASTP? Was it a test or what?
No, I was chosen as a college guy, so I was sent automatically.
Where were you? Do you remember anything about your schedule, your college schedule, or the courses you took, or?
No, not really. I remember one night when I had a date with a girl, another guy. We went out and we had dinner with him and came back. And that night, about 4 in the morning, and diarrhea hit the outfit. And it was a mess. They couldn't get in the toilets fast enough. All the paths up there, every place, people defecated. And we too were okay. The first day they talked to us, called us in. Oh, why didn't you get sick? We told them we had dinner elsewhere. And they cut us loose.
Mm-hmm. Where were you the day that you found out that they were closing the? Had you finished your course, or were you still in school when the ASTP shut down?
I just finished my course, and they told it was spring. I don't remember the month, but spring is early summer. They told us they were shipping out to 12. And incidentally, ASTP was real nice to me when they sent me to Las Cruces, New Mexico. I had family related to me. I wrote my wife and said, I'm going to land it, God forgot. She said, they didn't forget you. 4 families in town related to me. One of them had Ewell Lane, was a colonel on sick leave from Great Britain. He'd been planning an invasion and had heart trouble and was sent home. And the major was in awe of him, the major commanding at ASTP. And he'd call up for me and say, well, I want to have my nephew over for dinner tonight. Not go on a date. One day he and his wife came by. We were in what had been a dorm, college dorm. And the first sergeant was downstairs screaming for me like crazy. I knew it was. I saw him drive up, so I walked down slowly. And then first sergeant was tearing his hair out. It was Colonel from General Staff. Oh my, big deal. So we talked. We met and we talked. His wife gave me some fudge, box of fudge to take back to the room. I got clear back to the room before they hit me up for it. Everybody else was kind of in awe too. It was a nice deal. He was a real good guy.
So then you ended up at Barclay.
Yeah.
And you were in the reconnaissance. Tell us about
I was in battalion reconnaissance.
battalion reconnaissance.
Normally that's a regimental function, but they had no regiments there, so they put in the headquarters company of the battalion. The tail of organization, in other words, the way the battalion was set up was different than it was for a regular infantry battalion. We had ABC company, but our heavy weapons company was headquarters company. It had machine gun platoon, heavy 30s, and the assault guns, which originally were light tanks with 75mm mountain guns on there. And they'd probably 75mm around, but they wouldn't probably out very far. Very low velocity on, but very lightly armored tank. And machine gun platoon, and mortar platoon, INR platoon, all that stuff.
Well, did you go through the regular basic training as the other?
No.
You had a special reconnaissance training.
Oh yeah, we had a special company.
Okay, tell me about the strongest memory you have of your training at Camp Barclay, or somebody that stands out in your mind.
Well, they were having a review from Washington on division combat readiness, and I didn't want to stand. You could do all that. So I had all the rifles, had to be stashed and had to be cleaned. I took my rifle out and I made my bed up. You know, the bed stayed up. I put it under the bed, under the blanket, pulled the trigger real tight so you couldn't see it. And they had the inspection, everything passed. And it was all over Joe Ross, the platoon sergeant. Let a big sigh of relief and sat down right in the operating room of my rifle. He was furious when I got back, and I was on KE instantly. The next day, he started laughing about it, and he took me off. And I always do the first thing, that sergeant real well, because I knew I was going to be in KP a lot.
So you were in KP a lot?
Yeah.
Oh.
I wasn't a very good peacetime soldier, good combat soldier, but a lousy peacetime soldier.
Tell me about that. Tell me why. Why was that way?
I didn't care much for most of the brigade of the Army.
Tell me about what are the attributes that you had that made you a good wartime sergeant?
I don't know. On the daredevil side, I guess.
Do you think that's what got you in the reconnaissance, that excitement and?
I don't know what got me there. You know, they stayed, we were talking, they said, oh yeah, I like to hunt, I like to fish, I did a lot of gun shooting, every night, I'm driving big game hunting and all that stuff. I said, I know I was in the army.
When you left Barclay, where were you a sergeant when you
No,
left?
I never was a sergeant, I was a PFC.
Oh, PFC, okay.
Only after I got decorated.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Before that I was a private. Believe me, I was a private.
Who was your who was your sergeant that you remember at Barclay or your first days?
Well, not Barclay, I don't remember the sergeant there by name. I remember him, but I don't remember his name. He was a little, not too tall, kind of stocky. Good sergeant. There were two of them in the recon platoon, both good sergeants. When they pulled a lieutenant, I can't remember his name, I can't remember. I was there, and they put him in a machine gun patrol. I wasn't getting any of the good patrols, getting the action to speak of in the INR platoon, so I volunteered for a machine gun platoon. Went overseas, and they took me in as a bazooka man. I'd never fired a bazooka in my life. I was a bazooka man. And when Andrew Jackson Kavanaugh, first rate man, good lieutenant, pretty little mustache, pretty little walk, but a real brave man. Got wounded at Hurlesheim. They sent this platoon here I didn't like him, and they had the enlisted men in the INR platoon elect their own lieutenant. One of the two sergeants didn't know which one was best, so one of them won. He was lieutenant, the other was platoon sergeant. They're good.
Tell me your first memory of arriving in England.
Oh, I remember it was real wet and muddy. We had passing going to town. I never got to London. I was about the only guy in the outfit that didn't get to London. I was the first guy to get to Paris, but didn't get to London. It was awful wet and muddy there. And then I remember some of the buildings, outbuildings had machine gun holes in the roof where German pilots just strapped them during the war when they doing Air Force was active over England.
What is your first vivid memory of arriving in France?
They put us out in this field. We put up pup tents, it was raining like crazy. And we slept in the pup tents, we had to dig trenches around the pup tents so the water could stay away. It was miserable, terrible. We stayed there for a while, a couple of days, and then we moved on.
When you got to France, were you prepared in your mind for what you experienced? Was it a surprise or?
I was pretty much prepared. My dad was in the infantry in the First World War, 42nd Division, very famous division at the time. General MacArthur wound up division commander. He'd been brigade commander, but he wound up division commander.
So you grew up as, your father grew up telling you stories of?
I never talked much about it.
So there weren't a lot of surprises that the first part in France? Okay. Tell me your first reconnaissance mission. Tell me about what it was like, what you saw, smelled.
First one I got on was the whole platoon was going to cover the front while they pulled the division out. And another infantry division took our place. And it was New Year's Eve, or Christmas Eve, and I went on a patrol with a munching a drumstick with turkey, because they cooked the turkey early. And we went on the patrol early, and we got a prisoner on the way. And turned near, I didn't like the one I thought was a coward. I still think he's a coward. Was the leader. We went out, went around, and came back, and nothing happened. We got some empty foxholes. A prisoner, and I was it. Shortly after that, I volunteered for a machine gun platoon, because I had a good platoon sergeant, Joe Ross, and a good lieutenant.
How was it for you to be in the ASTP and then end up in the rifle companies? Did it make any
Fine.
difference?
Not to make any difference. I knew I was going to go into one sooner or later. Just holding me for now.
Talk to me about, you said on the reconnaissance you would go out and dig up things and try
I
to
never
get
did.
letters and, oh, okay.
I never didn't take me on patrol
Oh, okay.
very often. I don't think they ever dug up a trail. The train we were supposed that was one thing they said, we want you to do, but we never did.
What was generally what your day would look like?
You know what I did?
What, like like the day before Herleshheim. What would your day look like as you went into battle?
I remember.
Okay.
I remember now.
Do you remember Herleshheim?
Oh, very well.
Can you tell me about that experience for you?
That night, early morning, we went on the assault. We went down this road, and there was an infantry company defending the area. And a lot of them we couldn't see a thing. And then they were clear out of sight. If they'd been seen, they drove to shell them. But they were culverts on the road. They were in the culverts. A lot of them were in the culverts on the road, out of sight, and they could still see. And they were, I understand they come, but the exec officer of the battalion invited to come in the assault, but he said, no, you're crazy. They're out there in heavy numbers and they're going to get killed. The battalion commander was a coward. He was a coward. He didn't come. He gave orders for me to go climb this tank and went back to the rear. Couldn't find him by that tank. He was scared to death. He was relieved 2 days later. Got a new battalion commander. We went down the road, across the stone bridge, which had been damaged, which was bad for us because we couldn't have tank support, but good for us, better for us because the German tanks couldn't come back and pursue us because the German tanks were a lot better than ours. Ours were terrible. And went across that, now in this open field, and they heard, I could hear, and most guys could, on the right flank. And right flank's right rear. And we all lay down and waited, and they came up close, and about the time when they got suspicious, we opened fire and killed a bunch of them. And then we laid there for a while, and they started shelling us. Nobody could dig in. And my assistant bazooka man was a guy named Hiram Young, he was a good guy, he was brave. He could do mathematics in his head like crazy, like on these Greeks kind of, and he remembered things real well, but he didn't have much common sense. Much sense, really. And we broke the ground, got underground. We're the only guys in the battalion who was underground. Broke through the frozen ground because they didn't look attention to it. They would.
What kind of tools?
Entrenching tools.
Okay.
And they were worthless to frozen ground. They just chipped little pieces off. We got underground, and they pulled the plane back, put them in this big building that waterworks in there. It's at Wasserburgs. In a courtyard, and then across the road is another building, and some other buildings in the area. And I went back in, went to sleep like any good soldier would. I just put my bazooka in a corner, and I sat down next to it and went to sleep. I woke up with a big explosion. That tank was down in the building. The Germans were outside. They went, bazooka man. I got one, I said, so I went to get my bazooka and some guys hung stuff on it. I got untangled the thing, got out and went on the house. And Lieutenant Kavanaugh, but at this time I was a machine gun battalion. I talked to him. And he said, stand out there, and he said, shoot to the hole and get him all. I never fired a bazooka before, and I want to stand out there in plain sight. I could see a German soldier walking up and down. So he stepped back, and I stepped out in the shadows along the building, and like this, real deep shadows. It was a very bright night. And I ducked in the shadow, and I could hear him, Bob, and I shh. So he shut up, and I went up to the opening, I don't know, 30 feet from the tank. It was like you park a tank across the street from your house and down one, and you stood on the curb, be the same difference, 30, 40 feet. So I had a bazooka down, and I pulled the trigger, nothing happened. I pulled it and nothing happened. I didn't. When you pull a trigger, it runs a little generator. It generates electricity as far as the tank. As far as the protection, well, I couldn't get to go, so I pulled it back and I checked the wire and tried again. I couldn't get to go. So I tried to, went back and I worked on it again. I couldn't get to go. So finally, I pulled it by clear out, put it the whole thing all over again. Nothing happened. So I went back and got another bazooka. And I sneaked. I looked around the corner, and there it was. So I pulled the trigger, and the bazooka went off. But I didn't realize, it doesn't start out when you fire a round from a gun. It starts out at maximum velocity and loses. This thing starts out slow and gains speed, but it's heavy and drops the barrel down. So I pulled it back up and I got up high enough. I hit the tread and knocked the tread off the tank, the shape of the tank. And I got out of there. I mean, I didn't wait to see what happened to it. I just got out of there. So I went back to sleep like any good soldier. Good night, breathe. Bob, throw the tank out there. So I got up and I got the bazooka and I went out. And instead of staying on the right side facing at the door, I jumped across to stay on the left-hand side. Saved my life. Anyway, I looked around the corner, getting ready to fire at something shooting, and a big explosion near my feet. I thought I lost my foot and tore my shoes around the corner. Right side of my face, my hand around the corner. The concussion like to knock me out. A very, very strong concussion. My hand had all kinds of steel splinters in my fingers. And a scratch on the side of my face knocked my helmet off. And John knocked me out, so I stumbled back along the wall around. And I was on the moonlight, but they weren't doing where they could see back in. And they took me back with a place where the foot wounded eventually. Sat me down, I was recovering. I didn't know what the concussion was, and nobody did really. But I apparently had a pretty good concussion. And I was still pretty shaky. And Dick Coos came and said, "Hey, Bob, really think you can pick your hand up and you can come along. You want to come?" And I said, "No, I wasn't in any shape to go, really. I was too woozy." So they took me back to the room. By that time, I'd pretty much come to, and I was really, all these things. I knocked out tank, oh, big deal. We're talking, I told the captain about it. What happened, I knocked the tank out. So he come down, he patched my hand up. All my fingers, you can't see it now, but I was married 6 years later. And after I was married, my wife would take my thumb like this with my fingers and open it up, and it'd be like a wart with a black metal, and she'd pull out a little piece of steel. Didn't that fire since you after married? I had a lot of them. For years I got close to 100 pieces of steel on my fingers. A lot of little. Anyway, so I came out of the aid station. There was a white tank getting ready to go into Earlshine. I wanted to try to get in the back. Tank commander would let me. I almost cried. I was really shook up. I wasn't really ready. I was kind of still. And the company commander got a hold of me and told me, "Come back over here." So they had a big fight that night, and we lost. They just tore the battalion up. B company, I think, started over. My men was 185 men. Service is 155. One was 18 men, one officer next morning. And all our radios were knocked out. They couldn't get out. They couldn't. So camp management, company commander, took 40 men about. All he could scrape up went into town. They had this little hand bridge went over the Jordan River with. And like 2 pieces of angle there, top and bottom with slats across the mountain. And we went in town. Down where the machine gun was. It was in the end building. They had some little outfit, but the last house on the row. All the guys were in the cellar. But I didn't, Dick Coos was up and around like it. He and I were the company daredevils, really. He was sergeant. And we went upstairs and the roof of the house was partly knocked up and shelled. And he knew where a sniper had been shooting the night before, so he dropped a couple of rounds in on him. And we got a big they shot back at a big explosion here, and some guy come out of the side, stop, don't do that anymore. So we quit. We come down out of there. I went looking around. I saw this big tank everything across the Zorn River. If it hadn't been for the Zorn River, they'd eat us up. There were more of them than there was us. They had better tanks. We had some tanks hidden, but they were there. Well, they couldn't knock out the big Tiger, King Tiger. One I knocked out was a King Tiger, 68 tons.
Oh, it was one of those?
Yeah.
The one you knocked out?
Well, one I disabled.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was lucky. If I'd have hit up above, it would, bazooka wouldn't have planted the armor tooth. It would knock the tread off. So that put it out of action.
So probably the, when you were by the building and got hit and you got the concussion, that probably saved your life at Herlesheim, didn't it?
What, the building, the wall?
The what? Yeah, the wall, and when you got your concussion
Oh.
and you had to go back because there were only 18 of y'all left.
No, I wasn't in B Company. I was another company.
Oh, okay.
We had almost half our company there. One guy deserted. I new arrival. He volunteered to go back and get picks and shovels for us so he could dig in. He went back and didn't come back. He was back, I forget where he was in the river, but he was staying there. He wasn't going any place. And he just, next day or so, he deserted again, and they came back for a month or two, and they got him back. And we had him, the company commander said, Captain Max said, if he tries to leave, shoot him. But he, about 4 or 5 in the morning, I think it was, when everybody was asleep, he smelled, he sneak out. And afterward, I got him, but he was in some hospital, and they said, oh, he had something on the metal, and he's not responsible for his action, and all that. Got him off. He should have been shot.
After Herlesheim, how
I'm
How
not
do
done
you-
with the road song yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyway, I could see the tanks over there, the tank driver, the tank commander was sitting where I could see him. And I had a rifle, but I never saw, I didn't know it was accurate or not. So I went down and looked for a sniper rifle. Various buildings had their various. Finally, we all went down there, so the guy bringing me up a sniper rifle. He said, Bob, what do you want that for? I said, oh, we got a tank infantry team out there, bunch, and a bunch of guys out there, and I want to give me a tank commander if I can. He said, wait a minute, I got something better down there for you. He comes up with a first lieutenant, who was a fort observer for artillery. We shot him and he calls it in. In the meantime, a light tank tried to get out of town and got knocked out. A bunch of the tank people were hurt and they were screaming for help, so Dick Hoos and I ran across the road. And man, they were firing at us like crazy. You know, they missed, I don't know how they missed, but they missed. And I dove from the roadway into the ditch, and the ditch was full of branches. You know, they'd been shelled earlier, and it swept all the branches and stuff in the river from the trees that lined the road in the ditch. It looked like like a beauty house to me, really. And I dove in. We went out of the tank and came on back. They had a medic up there to help me. Came back, and that was about all. Till that night they said, well, you're pulling out, so Dick and I decided we want to leave a booby trap. Well, the engineers are the only people that are make a righteous booby trap. So we went, the tanks came by, and they'd gone down and stopped a little farther on down, off to our right. Well, left facing the enemy, and then going out and stop. And so Dick said, I'm going to call the tanks. That's why I'm going back with the outfit. So I went back to where they were going across the bridge. And a German grounded it or something. To one side, the bottom rung was gone. The steps we walked out were all gone. And the thing landed on the right side of it. Nick was bent and swayed. I was much bigger and heavier than the sergeant who was doing around. I said, you go first, because I might break this thing. So he went on across, and I went went overhand across, and I made it. I swayed kind of crazy. I thought I was going to the river, but I didn't. Jordan River, incidentally, was, the bottom was all cement, you know, the cement in so it didn't stay in the cement. Wouldn't. Went on back, and later on that day, late, early in the morning, actually, I'd say, very, like 5 or 6, when they got back with the tanks. They had quite an adventure with them. And then we assaulted again. We didn't get as far as next time. They were waiting for us. While we were making the assault, the 17 infantry attacked from the other direction and took the town. And then they were promptly overran. The Germans overran them. They smashed them pretty good. We were there for about 2 weeks. I remember one time we made, I don't know how many assaults we made on there, one down that road, but people were getting hurt there pretty we lost less than half of it doing the whole thing though. We were pretty lucky. When we got into Earlsham, I remember his name now, I can't think of it. I know it, but I can't think of it. But kind of a shock. He'd been seen behind a gun and there was a big explosion near him and just knocked him out. He was still unconscious. You know, not right yet. When I got there, they sent him back and he was hospitalized for a couple, 3 days, for a week I think, or more. For a while till he got his son here and came back to it. He's a good man too.
Where did y'all's replacements come?
What?
The replacements that y'all received at Herlesham, you said that y'all stayed in that area about 2 weeks, did you say? So were y'all waiting for replacements or
No,
what?
we were just fighting the Germans
Oh, okay.
for 2 weeks. I remember that we'd go out at night, set up a defense line there's one area. We were the right flank, so machine gun team was. And one night a German patrol came to on a rifle gun up to our left a ways and killed a light machine gunner. He tried to move the machine gun instead of changing his position, trying to change the position of the machine gun. It was frozen in the ground. He couldn't do it. And they killed him. He'd gone the other way, might have beat him off. Had a chance to beat him off, but he didn't. Anyway, a guy named Ricketts and a guy named Pete Spodwell from the recon right on listening post. And they were coming back in. And they were fired on. And Ricketts was shot pretty badly, apparently. And Pete Spodwell yelled and started bringing him in. He got shot by our own people before we get him back. Before we get him back in. They were both good men. Pete Spodwell had the best hearing of anyone in the outfit by far. He came from a little town in North Dakota, and he wasn't a blanket Indian, but he's pretty close. He's a real smart kid, though. Well, he had to be being recon platoon. Not very big. Good man. Make it to it. He never came back to outfit. Pete Spodwell did, but he was wounded pretty severely, I think. When we were in Columbus, I looked all over. I couldn't find it. He lived in Columbus 44. On the way over, the troop train went to Columbus, and he couldn't get out and say hello to his parents. He had to sit there. He and his girlfriend there. He didn't get him married, the war was over. He couldn't see her, and tore him up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we came back home this one time. Good, a lot of mortar shells. The German equivalent of 120 millimeter mortar. They were real killers too. Anyway, I ducked in this little hole. I crawled outside and Joe Ross said, "Hey, come on, Bob, we gotta go." So I got up and ran with him. Joe was out of the area that was being shelled, and I was still back in. and a platoon followed me, and him and both, we got out of it. And we got back to cross this little creek and bridge, and there's a big shovel there. So he set a couple of machine guns up there, and he told me to get back, get some more ammunition. So I went back down the cellar where there wasn't there some guys down there with him. Hey, Bob, what are you doing? I went to talk to him, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk literally, I was so tired. I was just exhausted. But I walked over and I grabbed a couple of the boxes of machine gun ammunition, went out, and they grabbed it with them. We all went out and took machine gun ammunition up to the position.
Who was, you talked about that you were decorated. Was that about the,
Knocking out the tank.
Sir?
We're knocking out
Knocking
the
out
tank.
the tank?
Yeah. Dad run out and open it, help and rescue those guys in the knocked out tank. That's so was tired.
How does a person go about getting decorated? Tell us that process.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I knew the company commander had it, and he wanted to have a battalion ceremony and have me decorated, and I didn't want a battalion ceremony. So one day he had a little to drink, and I went and talked to him about it and mailed it home. Put this so-called secret, dealie, top secret or something. So I folded it up and put it in the decoration, mailed the whole thing home.
Who is the person that stands out in your memory of your war experiences?
Dick Coos.
Who?
Dick Coos, Koos.
Uh-huh.
He was my run party. We used to get in a lot of stuff. We went back after that. They refitted the division. We weren't fit for combat. 40, this tank battalion, 40, 15, was 44th, I don't remember. 44th, I think it was. Lost everything. They was there, they went on this assault, the German trapped them and knocked all the tanks out. And then the battalion out there, all they had was headquarters staff. Then the vehicles left. Had to rebuild it. Refit us, And so we got I remember we were in this French village. We would eat, and the kids would stand there with plates down the garbage can waiting to get any extra we have. So we always took a little extra to give them. It's a hard thing to do, Everybody took a little extra and gave the kids some.
I don't have many people that have talked about that. What was it? You just now talked about the children. And we talk about that. What were the people like that you came across, or the children, or the families, or the townspeople?
They're all very nice. We had the guns and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
One town, we were in this. They caught us with this German family, and all this. Their mama so and so, they're so great. And I was talking to a French resistant guy one day, and he said, "Hey, do you know that her son is in the German army?" I said, "What?" Her son in the German army. So I told the guy, "Oh no, she said her son couldn't be there. I wouldn't accept it." But her son was in the German army. We were her protection. As long as we were there, she was safe. I don't know what happened when we left.
So was he? So you basically, when you left, you think probably the people turned on them because of the German. Their son was a German.
We was in the German army.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I would suspect they weren't too popular. That was in Alsace-Lorraine.
Oh, that was the okay. Where did that fit into the kind of the timeline, the Alsace-Lorraine, your experience there?
Well, that would be, Herdesheim's in Alsace-Lorraine.
Okay.
Colmar Pirate was in Alsace-Lorraine, all through there. It'd be January, February, December. I'm not sure about March, but January, February, I know we were in there.
What is the thing that you remember? What are you remembering between Herlesheim and the Colmar Market? Was it just kind of a drudge, or was there
Being
some
refitted.
refitted? Okay.
Then we went down in the coal mine pocket. I remember all the little towns around there were in good shape, but the big town, the coal mine, was pretty badly damaged. I remember this one one curve, and the Germans buried 13 tunnel mines one on top of the other. You know, so the guys that got the last one, they pulled up and 13 tunnel mines come up. You know what tunnel mine means?
No.
Plate mine.
What?
Plate.
Plate. Oh.
I suppose a little German at the time. I'm not, you're in high school German. And anyway, some guy come around the corner and a 3/4 ton truck ran over it. And you can see the truck laying way over there. The big hole in the ground, 13 tunnel mines were off. We were pretty careful around it. When this little town, during the sniper knocked around us, well, not sniper, no, yeah, like deer, except deer's got a rifle. And let them, so another GI was out sniper hunting too. And he was sneaking in on the second floor, and he'd act like he had so many traps, so I went up behind him very quickly and quietly. And just when I got behind him, he heard me, he turned that way and shoot me. He didn't realize I was there. So we were in this building, but it wasn't anything. And then they started firing at church steeple. Apparently there was a sniper up there. They backed the armored cars up and fired out with 30 mil rifle and burned the church down.
You burned it down, you
Yeah,
said?
it burned down. And then all those incendiary bullets, like a 50 caliber machine gun, there, 2 regular rounds, 2 incendiary rounds, and 1 armor person.
When you, what about yourself prepared you to do this? What got you through the war? What are attributes about yourself that kept you going?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Was it when you looked at the days, were they difficult?
Yeah, sometimes they're pretty miserable. Hard living. No sleep.
Tell me about the hardest day that you remember.
And the day I got wounded.
Are you talking about the time when your hand and you had your concussion and everything?
That was the hardest day.
Was there a fearfulness for your safety or pain?
I
or
never
what?
was very scared. I never prayed. I believe in God, but I never prayed. Every reason to believe in God. We were in Germany, and machine gun platoon and mortar platoon were laying out in this field, and there was a stone barn up to our left front, and farther over to left was a house. And this lone German gun's banging away here, there, you know, and went off, and the next son told me, the next round's coming here, just as clearly as anything. And I got up, about 70 guys sitting around, laying around, and one only PFC running for his life. So I ran this stone barn. It was clean. It was real clean. It didn't smell at all like a barn, you know, a cows. It just smelled like inside of the house, really. And then cement stalls, whitewash cement stalls. And I ran in the barn, ran the last stall, and turned in. When I turned in, I could see the rest of the guys coming. Because by that time, I had some respect, you know, I've been through a lot. And they all came in behind me. And the guy just got inside when the shell came. And we lay there a while, and then said, oh, get up and get out. So we got going out. Then went back to where I'd been laying the grass. You could see where the grass was pressed down. There was a cut about this long in the grass from shot. Well, I'd been killed if I stayed there. So I know there. Somebody or something told me to move, and I moved.
When y'all had replacements and stuff, do you see yourself as sort of a leader for them?
I'm a bad example.
Tell me why. Why do you think that?
When we were back refitting, at night, you can't stay watch the Jeeps real car. You can't steal them. But the truck driver and I would take his truck and we'd go looking. We could find Calvados, women, whatever. And of course, under Jackson Kavanaugh the third was a real good guy. He dropped his what he wanted to bring back to him. I didn't know what we were doing. So we're trying to get him for him. He's a good guy. Had a lot of fun that time. But one time, they stopped outside town. I walked in, I walked around the corner, I saw the first side and the other side walking. They were down talking. They had their heads down. I zipped around, back, got that out, and got the hell out of there as fast as I could. Yeah, we had a lot of fun too. Half truck has an advantage. MPs rode in Jeeps, and they had carbines, and carbines wouldn't penetrate the armor on a half truck. And if never happened to me, but if they ever pulled up alongside you, all you had to do is pull left when they're in the ditch.
So y'all traveled on half tracks all the time,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One time, when we broke through the Rosales Mountains down the Rhine, I was assistant truck driver, got real tired, so I drove for a while with him. And they had the armor plate down front of that little DD lecture, and it was dark, and there were no lights on. You know, normally you have little lights on so you can see the vehicle in front of you, but the Germans seeing more of this, so we turned all the little lights on. And I'm trying to see the road to keep us from rolling off. Keep it mountainous, miserable, terrible driving.
Did you ever feel like there was never a time just to kind of let down and let your guard down?
Oh yeah.
Was that even during your sleep? Was there ever just a time you could just sleep and rest?
For sure.
It was.
Oh, why, something like that. And then right in the rat race, why you could lay down, you could sleep pretty good. You're pretty sure to know he's going to attack you. An hour and a half is pretty hard to attack.
Do you remember when you first started hearing the word that the war might be coming to an end?
No.
You don't?
I knew it was because we were getting all of Germany.
From Colmar, where did you go?
I tried this in the First French the Third Army.
Okay.
Well, Colmar, incidentally, had a very interesting deal. They had this little town they wanted to take, and we call it the Waffle. It was a medieval town. It had a moat and the walls and all, but dry moat. And it wasn't my outfit, but another platoon went up and looked over, and they saw that there was a drain coming out from under the town or something. So they sent a couple of guys down. They went inside, came up, and they came up in the middle of the town. So they came back in a couple of days because they didn't want to sell that thing. That'd been murder, been killed doing that. So they dropped a platoon or a company, I forget which, and they went in and took the town from the middle out. They came up in the middle of the town, took the German command post, and just kept going until they took the town from the inside out.
I've never heard that story. I've never heard that story about Colmar, yeah.
Colmar was okay. They had French Foreign Legion troops there. They were the toughest good-looking group of women they ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this, they were from long roads from Africa. Had them there too. I just saw them here and there. Yeah. Colmar itself was pretty well battered. Little towns are okay. German, just well, in France, mostly big towns are okay, and little towns are all smashed. In Germany, it's the reverse. Big towns are smashed, little towns are okay.
So were you, was your company, you were telling me about the Silver Star in our break. You tell me again about the Silver Star and then that other honor you received.
Well, county commander wanted to give it to me. And battalion formation, I didn't want it. like that. So I think we did drink a little bit. I talked him out of it. Gave it to me and I put the decoration underneath and mailed it home.
Mailed it home, you said?
Yeah.
Why, can you explain to me, why you didn't, well?
What?
Why was your reaction that way? Can you explain that to me?
I don't like military formations. I don't like staying there. No, saluting and stuff. I know it's necessary, but I don't like it.
Yeah, you just didn't like all that hoopla, huh? Yeah. And then you said the field, tell me, explain a little more about the field marshal.
Well, there were 2 enlisted men, 1 officer from every division in the 7th Army were to receive British decorations, and I was to them.
Was there a specific, was that just your general service over the whole, with the French, or was that a specific thing that had happened?
Just general service, I think. I don't know. I just got it. Nobody told me anything. I was at the private. Yeah. Anyway, it was after war, and some, can't remember the name of the town, a German city, and we were going back there, and the company furnished a Jeep and me, and then we were picking up this other guy. So they had a battalion nominated a lieutenant to come with us, because the lieutenant one up, so was going to get it was KIA. Killed in action. So we went back there. They dropped it off this so-called hotel. Doors had no doors, no mattress, just a bed. We got robbed that night. Next morning we got up and went out to this big field, and the officers on the right, the enlisted men on the right. On the left, there's one full colonel, I think it was, collapsed. And he lay there. He was a peon in that group. And Colonel Marshall Montgomery, who was the general who said nuts to the Germans at the Bulls? He was there, bunch of guys, big wheels. And anyway, he went through, and down up, and when you walk up, you salute. And there's this deal. It's like an S-shaped deal. They hook in your, and then put the metal over it and said, take of it. And he asked me where it's from, and I said Montana, and General Bradley and I both said Northwest, sir. General Bradley was there. He just homely in the pictures, too. Nice guy, don't I understand. Anyway, we talked, and I stepped back, and I stood, and, I was about ready to leave, and I heard him say to Bradley, magnificent specimen, magnificent. I walked across that. I fine chest with that. And about 2 weeks later, I figured he was saying that to everybody. It was quite an experience. Anyway, it was a terrible place to stay that night. We all went back. The lieutenant took some Jeep and went out and had a good time with us. He didn't do a thing, he just had a good time. He didn't do a thing in a war either. He just some headquarters guy.
Tell me the difference between men you respected and men you didn't respect in the war.
Cowards and not cowards.
Could you tell by talking to a man or observing a man what?
You can tell when the bullets start to fly, you'll know. They tell you. They don't mean to tell you, but they tell you. There's a den I didn't like. Well, Andrew Jackson came at Herlisheim. When they started the assault on Herlisheim, he came out this opening in the wall where he would come out there and ways and got shot. They sent him back to the hospital. He came back, and then he was with me across when we broke through the West Side Mountain. We were in the 3rd Army. And he was with us, and we crossed the Rhine. I woke up and we're on a pontoon bridge on crossing the line. That was one pleasant time. The Collins coming up, the first vehicle stopped because the mountain really do like this and back up, and you couldn't see it. When you get around the corner, you could see 170 millimeter rifles or howitzers or whatever, a horse-drawn, the artillery going up the mountain. Stopped and they killed the first team with a 50 caliber. And there was horses and guns all over that mountain. And people coming back like crazy, German. They weren't going too fast. When they got by us, they went pretty fast. Dick Coos said, hey, Snowmonkey Stone didn't hurry. He went, mine's by, boom, mine's by. He didn't shoot anybody. We came close enough to scare them, and they were starting to move it now. Anyway, we got down, we crossed the line, and we were in Germany, and there's one German soldier stopped by the road with his hands up, and he was a Czech who had been dropped in as a spy in a German uniform. He spoke German. And so I got out. I was the only guy to get out. I went over there, he said, he had 2 pistols in this house. I'll go, let's go get them. So I went right. The other guys were saying, no, don't go. And I knew they weren't going to know they could shoot at us like that. They all were 200 places apart. So I'm back in the 45 caliber pistol, American and a German Luger. And I gave Andrew Jackson Cannon Lieutenant a Luger, and I kept a 45, but our shoulder was worked till then, almost till the end of the war. And we went on from there. I remember one time the bridge went down this hill, the little bridge, and it was too light for the tank, so there was a railroad trestle nearby, and the tanks were crossed on the railroad trestle. You see them up there, tanks in the air. Looks a little funny, I tell you.
I've seen pictures of those, but nobody's ever told me about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they ate them across. I wouldn't want to ridden one. Anyway, we went there too. We went south of Frankfurt by about 50, 60 kilometers, or miles, I'm not sure which.
What was it like? What were the German people like as y'all came into Germany?
Friendly, very friendly. They didn't want us to kill us. They didn't, it's hard to say, you know. Now and again you need somebody really like this, you could tell. We're going down this one family was out to celebrate because Hitler was gone. They were getting free. They apparently were anti-Nazis. And they were literally overjoyed. Most of them weren't. We were in, I don't remember the town, we were in this one little town. And some DPs came in, the Germans were acting up, and they'd been armed by some other American soldiers, so we woke the lieutenant I didn't like, who was a coward. He said, let's go get him. So he's all right, let's go. So we got we're going on after him. We went halfway there, and I gotta go back and call the company commander before we go. So Dick Coos and I said, we'll take you, we'll get the depot, and then we'll go back and take him. So we started out, about 50 feet down the road, he called us to come back and make it look bad. He was a coward. Yeah, Captain Maddox was not a personality. He wasn't a guy you liked, but he was a guy with common sense, with courage, and he was capable, very capable.
And you felt safe under his care,
Oh yeah,
leadership.
yeah. More than I can say for a lieutenant.
Tell me where you were when the war, when you first found out that the war was ending.
Over in the mountains near Burgess Garden.
Were you on the road or were you in town or?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. What was your feeling that day? Do you remember your feelings that day?
Relief.
Now, did you have enough points at the end of the war to get to come on home, or what happened?
Well, they had a deal if you volunteered to go to Japan, guarantee you 30 days furlough and 6 months in the state before you went. And I said down and turned, we had a war bureau by then, so I volunteered. And I was one of the first guys home. Came into Boston on the Marine Devil. They got another guy from my outfit was in another part of the ship. I never saw him. It was a freight type deal. And then converted to a troop ship, and he spent most of the time below decks. And he was a different compartment than I was, and I never saw him. Anyway, we got that down there, had a big show for us, and we got the tickets down, we got all the, gave tickets home, and we went there, we got to Salt Lake City, whatever it was they had there. Went there and they gave us tickets home, and we went home. I used to take part way and I hitchhiked the rest of the way and got down to Miles City. I knew my parents were there. There was a company which had a big party for the executives. So I walked in, I'm looking around at my parents, and some guy says, I beg your pardon, it's a private party, just about that time.
A great memory?
Yeah. Got out and was going back and saw the car, my dog was in the back of the car. And a little pit bull named Tuffy. Real nice dog. He wasn't a real killer. He was a nice dog.
So that was a surprise, wonderful welcome home, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, after the lieutenant was killed, the guy was to get a military cross, which the equivalent of military medal, same level. Right, this other sergeant who and I were called back division headquarters and put in protective custody, which lasted less than a week. Somebody broke in the office liquor supply. You know, mothers complaining about their children, daughters being out playing night and stuff, you know. And they shipped us back. They weren't ready for us. They were used to peaceful stuff. We were like, you know, hey, let's have a good time. So they shipped us back. I missed them. While I was gone, some young guys walked down the column and back up again. They were nice looking blonde kids. I didn't see them personally. But they had yellow diamonds, I think with blue on for Polish. Mm-hmm. And they're coming back, they went by the recon platoon. Riley and Rousey stopped them. And they shook them down. They both had P-38, so I took the P-38s and stripped them. I looked at their arms, and the older kid had the SS tattoo, so he walked them in the house and saw them had their own pistol. Mm-hmm. Just like that. The younger kid looked about 14, the older about 18. The kid at 14 was the second man to die, and he's begging for my mother, and don't kill me. They shot him, took his pistol and shot him in the head and killed him. Spy, you get killed, you know. That's war.
What did you learn about yourself during the war? Or what made you different after, what about the war changed you or affected you or changed the way you saw life?
Not much.
Not much? Was it easy just to come back and start your...
Well, when I first got back, if you opened the door, by the time the door opened, I'd be sitting up in bed, you know. But when I get over that, it was about the same.
Did anything you experienced prepare you for your life after the war? Helped you in your life after the war?
I think realizing I had courage helped me a little. I didn't know as bold as I was.
So that was a surprise, that your boldness and courage and...
I was surprised as bold as I was. And Dick Curtis and I were in a lot of stuff. We were on patrol a lot. Go out and look for Germans to kill, you know, stuff like that. one time in Germany, in this little town, and they had an airfield behind us, and the German pilot took off and flew over us, and they escaped. And they were fighting off to our left front, so Dick and I went out to see what was going on. And next thing you know, B Company, up a tune from B Company, led by Charlie Peichel, a really fine man. He was my man was at T5. He'd just been court-martialed for running over a gas pump with his half-track where he was racing some other guy back to camp. But he made lieutenant. He was squad leader when we went into early sergeant, second lieutenant when we went out. B Company, very brave man, very good man.
If you were, we're going to have our tape and we're going to put it here in the museum and everything. What lesson or what thing would you like to leave with people who will listen to you talk?
Like them to be amused.
Sir?
Like them to be amused.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did the war make you bitter or anything? Yeah.
Huh. I was in for the Korean War.
Oh, so you were in the Korean War also?
Yeah, but I got married after I got in. I didn't go overseas. Didn't want to anymore.
Oh,
But once I got married, I wanted to stay home.
stay home, yeah. Well, what have I missed? What are some things that I've missed covering or you talking about or something that? Is there a favorite story you told your family that you haven't told us?
Well, let me see. I'm not I can think of it right now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, and it was good to visit with you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
You know how to turn it on?
Yeah, Dick Coos after combat got a Silver Star.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, we went out and rescued those guys from the tank.
Yeah.
He got a Silver Star for that. They got a Silver Star for that and knocked out that.
Did you keep up with him after the war?
No.
No.
I've seen him once since war.
Oh, have you?
And we were down in Florida, and I looked him up when we were in Florida. He'd retired and gone down there.
Huh. So you don't even know if he's still living or anything now?
Last I heard he was.
He was, wow.
And the last address I had was in Florida, but the last one I called and he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, did the disconnection. I don't know what I've done since. Maybe he died, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I hope not.
Yeah.
He was a white-haired guy.
You're barely even getting any gray now, are you?
Well, I guess enough gray.
Yeah, you've got enough gray, but not very much. Unless you doctor it up.
I don't.
You don't, yeah. Yeah.
I get gray, I'll be gray.
You haven't stopped.